So delighted to be joined today by Kyle and Joe, the co-directors of Dead Mail. Guys, how you doing?
Doing great.
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much for your time. Long time in the making. So I'm delighted to have you on, and congratulations on the movie premieres, international premiere, sorry, this Saturday at time of recording on Frightfest. He's looking forward to an international audience getting to view it for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
We're still honored that anyone wants to watch it. So to have an international audience and at a theater at a great festival is fantastic.
Mm. And yourself, Kyle, as well. You looking forward to? So I assume you'll hear feedback and things like that over socials and.
yeah. No, it's so cool that so many people, so many actors, a few crew members did amazing work on this film, and we were lucky that we get to be a part of it. So it's cool that people get to see some of the stuff that they did, and love London. Wish we could be there. So yeah, it's very exciting to be doing this.
Yeah. And on to the movie then. Dead Mail is, well, I try not to go too spoiler heavy. So, in this kind of discussion, what would you, for people that have maybe seen the trailer and want a wee bit more information before checking out the movie, what would you describe Dead Mail as? I think it would be easier for you to describe because it was an interesting movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when we, I guess, started writing it, we were just, we loved this concept of the dead letter office and the idea that there's like a detective of some sort who investigates undelivered mail. And so we just kind of wanted to see how we could heighten it. Maybe it's because of our Midwest American upbringings. We're always scared we're going to be super boring and bland people creatively. So kind of making it, we were always just like, all right, what can we do to make this feel a little weirder, a little stranger? So I think in those pursuits, the film became some kind of horror-ish, slightly surreal hybrid. There's a lot of analog synthesizers in it, a lot of film grain, hopefully some kind of appropriately ugly or drab Midwest, American Midwest scenes, etc. But how would you describe Dead Mail, Joe?
Yeah, I think that's good. It has hopefully a gritty palette was something we were going for. We weren't going for, I guess, quintessential horror, but they're obviously, we like things that are intense and suspenseful, and then hopefully unique within that space. And I guess our goal was kind of to transport people to a world that they, maybe haven't seen before, but is a believable one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's a lot of 1980s culinary artifacts in it, a lot of microwave dinners. 80s Chinese food delivery. That's certainly an important part of the film.
Mm-hmm. And is that had it always started out as being set in that timeline? Obviously, with myself, I used to actually be a post person in the UK, and
Nice.
the mail decline has been quite a big thing recently for us. Was that a important kind of time setting for you?
I would say the synthesizer aspect is what sealed the timeline for us. Once we integrated that, we're like, we want to do this authentically, kind of on the bridge of digital or analog to digital. So that definitely sealed the 80s. And then anything where you can get away with pre-cell phone, I think is a more fun world to explore. So that'd be my take.
When we were kind of researching 1980s post-service technology and trying to, just making sure like we knew what an actual 1983 post box, American post box looks and stuff. I was always jealous of the red British postal box. Like that's so much cooler. This film would have been much more iconic had we been able to use that. But I think we did briefly for a while think of like, can we just, because we're having a tough time sourcing like a freaking mailbox from the 80s. Like it was just, being in Los Angeles is the only thing that kind of helped that pursuit with all the prop houses here. But I think at one point we were kind of thinking like, can we just do this be a random community and can we make our own kind of metal mailbox? But we found the one, or at least the only one that we could afford.
It's having been privy to the contents of the red mailbox. They look nicer on the outside than they do on the inside. They can be quite grim inside, especially in the Glasgow area. But yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Do people?
can,
What's the weirdest thing you found inside one of those that wasn't mail?
weirdest, but maybe not. But needles is a common thing I found.
Okay.
Yeah, jaggy things which you don't want your hand touching, and they're very rusted inside. They look nice. They get painted every so often on the outside, but the inside can be a bit darker.
There's a lot of metaphor in this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a follow-up film in and of itself. Wow.
That can be the sequel, set in Glasgow, just about dodgy mailboxes. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
You guys, you mentioned the synthesizer and your kind of use of the sound design in this is an integral part of it. It's very the character of Trent is obviously very invested in what seems to be his kind of obsession with developing this sort of a breakthrough kind of wave in synthesizers. It's something that I remember growing up watching in movies, and for some reason, what came to mind was Masters of the Universe. The sound from the I can't remember what they call it, but I think he says it's a synthesizer in it, but it's some sort of portal thing. And it was it just sprung into my head as soon as I started hearing it, but not for any other reason than just my own memory. But the use of sound is very, there's parts in it where it's so constant that it becomes unsettling as well, I feel. Like it's quite a drone with the organ noises that are coming through. How did you go about kind of delivering that and developing it?
I mean, I think we were lucky just the basis of the main character being a synthesizer engineer and creating a lot of dissonant sounds as he's trying to build this synthesizer. We were able to use a lot of diegetic sounds from that process, but then of course use that to inspire the rest of the score. I think as when we were younger, hearing like Wendy Carlos scores for the first time, that kind of was like, what is this sound? And it's such an analog synth during that time is such a different sound than like, keyboards from other eras. So we were always kind of drawn to that sound and wanting to replicate it in some ways. But yeah, definitely that inspired a lot of the sound design. It's just that synthesizer engineering process.
Yeah, and all I'd add to that is just tonally, it's just more fun when music is sort of manipulating things. So we maybe overdo it to some people's taste, but there's so much you can create that maybe isn't there, with drones, and in this case, what felt very motivated with the noisy tinkering synth that an artist named Janet Beat actually provided for us. Who was a legitimate 60s synthesizer engineer. So yeah, that was just really fun to play with and then, manipulate tone with.
Yeah.
I heard someone say one time when like a scene was maybe feeling kind of mediocre, like on set or something, they said, we'll fix it in the score. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a mentality that you sometimes have to use, and usually it comes down to if our writing isn't amazing or intrinsically the scene isn't great. Usually, you could complement with the score or tweak something emotionally, like Joe was saying with the score.
Yeah, our first short that we did together a long time ago. I'm glad it's not necessarily public, but there are things to be proud of. But yeah, I remember some very mediocre scenes where we were just in discovery mode, and we're like, with the right music here, or even something that maybe feels a bit ironic, this scene sort of has new life. So it's definitely one of the more fun parts that we enjoy in the filmmaking process.
And did you have examples of the music on set while you were filming to get the feel for it, or was it all done afterwards?
Yeah, all done afterwards. We had one song in mind that Trent, the character, John Fleck, the actor, actually sang in his audition that we referenced several times. It's Dido's Lament. And he sang it in like a falsetto octave, like higher than you could possibly imagine him being able to on our Zoom call audition. So we referenced that a few times for inspiration. But yeah, if you can ever hear John Fleck sing that, ask him.
And also, I guess the song that one of the character Josh, he's playing at a synthesizer trade show, kind of a third of the way through the film. He's playing a song, and we knew that we actually probably needed him to play something. And Sterling Macer, who plays Josh, is such a good musician. So we kind of found that box song at some point, knowing like, oh, this would be great for him to be playing, and would also work for other parts in the film. But Sterling, like on the day of filming, like learned how to play that little melody. So yeah, and which helps so much in the edit that he's actually playing it. We didn't have to cheat it. So yeah, we definitely brought in that song on set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I had that sort of musical talent. I was very poor at guitar for about 10 years. That was about it. And then I kind of stopped. Maybe if I picked it up, I could try something, but no, not for a while for me with that.
Explore the setting, not the part,
Yeah, just
make it sound weird.
Yeah, hit it and see what happens. That's what I'm planning on doing. That's kind of what I done when I was meant to be good as well. But you touched on the kind of Trent and Josh relationship, and again, not going into too much spoilers, but it feels like there's obviously an obsession on Trent's part that is born from something that's happened before, and there's like a projection onto Josh as well. You get the two kind of performances that you get from that as well add to the tension that is in throughout the scene. I think you feel there is an element of when you first meet Trent. No, I'm trying to think this because it's not filmed the kind of normal way. There's cutbacks and things, but you get the feeling there is a danger in Trent kind of bubbling under, and then when it's his goal is kind of shown, it really adds to it as well. Is that again something from the beginning? Is it, as I said, kind of to move on a wee bit, the way the films plays out, it's not just straight A to B to C. There's chops in there. It starts at different points, and it gives you a kind of deeper background into Trent as you go on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that relationship was interesting for us to explore. I think as humans, many of us have those moments where you see whatever's bringing you comfort in life, like with a relationship or something, and when that's slipping away in some sense, there's a desperate feeling to want to maintain that. And I guess Trent's character, to whatever degree, experiences that, where he's found this potential partner with Josh and this kindred spirit with Josh, and as that possibly gets jeopardized, we just, at least in our own minds, kind of explore. I think even making this film, before we plotted out any of this, was just the idea. I mean, we've had personal issues in life or whatever, like, oh, what am I willing to do to maintain my normalcy, or what I think is making me happy? And I think kind of exploring the extremes of that in this film is something that kind of happened. Mm-hmm. Sounds really melodramatic. I don't, and self-important.
No, and I would just add, we wanted Trent to feel very human. Like clearly he's got some major issues, but maybe some part of you, roots for him or sympathizes with him at the same time. So whether or not that's the case for all viewers, that was, I think, something intangible we were going for.
Yeah, you do have that sympathy. He seems like he's been, to an extent, fairly alone, and he's reaching out to, he said, a kindred spirit. There's that, if you get that feel, like from his point of view, he's feeling that connection that is there with Josh, but maybe not on the same level, and he's fully committed himself to it, like financially and spiritually and physically, and it maybe doesn't go as he would expect, and you get the reactions, obviously, and it's very. So in terms of the structure of the film as well, I found really interesting because it doesn't start in the middle, but there is an overlapping point of all three sort of tales, if you want to call it by that, go by that description. How did you come about with the structure of the movie? It's very interesting. It keeps you looking for other hints throughout as well, and little. You maybe, certainly when I watched it twice. Once just I do a kind of note taking and then watch back again, just to get me a bit more in depth. You can fully focus as well. It has you checking in the background, maybe seeing if there's hints as to what's to come, or the kind of mystery that surrounds the film throughout. What was your kind of basis for having it in that kind of structure?
Well, first off, thanks for watching the film twice. I mean, what an honor. Yeah.
No,
So we sort of, I guess it began as an accident. So we had the idea for the first scene of a man crawling to the mailbox. That was actually, we had the concept for the dead letter office first, then that scene, and we're like, that's a great opening scene. So I guess that kicked off sort of the slightly atypical structure. But then probably the second iteration of that was just being really excited about seeing the world from Jasper's point of view in Act One, and then kind of getting to see it differently through Trent's point of view toward the end of Act Two. So I think between those three pieces, that's kind of how we decided to kind of roll with that structure.
Certainly very not fully intentional, like Joe said. Yeah, I think first act, we just wanted to kind of follow the trajectory of the letter. But then at some point, we felt like, all right, this is where the letter needs to shift to a new perspective, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of see the origins of the letter that was written in the first scene of the film.
And we kind of touched on, well, there was a mention of David Lynch before we started recording, but it wasn't in relation to the movie. But there is a kind of surreality to it, especially there's a character who is, best way to describe him, his ways of getting information. And that character, the way he was framed, there's a kind of first introduced to him, the dialogue between the two characters at that point, it did seem quite Lynchian, and he seems like a very Lynchian feeling character to me anyway when I was watching it. That strangeness to him, kind of almost like a hyper normal. Oh, if I've described that correctly.
Yeah, are you Jasper or Trent, or which character are
you? Renee, yeah.
Renee, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Renee, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's all of this, just comes from like the silliest of circumstances. I think Renee's character, I was like in a weird like eyeglass shop in like somewhere in LA, and there was like a European guy listening to this like glockenspiel music super loud, and he's just really strange. And I was like, oh, we got to find a way to incorporate this guy. And so Joe and I wrote that scene, and then we're like, oh, our Norwegian friend Nick would be great to play this. And and I think in terms of the surreal nature of it, I think it ends up being a combination of music and what Nick brought to the role. He just had such a strange nuance to his delivery and everything. But yeah, that's something that like I think again, just our fear of feeling too like normal or basic bastards. We just want to try to make things feel slightly strange, but the level of success of that's to be determined.
Yeah, it was also just fun, the idea as we were building Jasper of him having sort of this intel that he could get from from his Norwegian counterpart that we don't know much about. So that was just fun in building how does this guy solve these cases, and felt like I think Lynchian is obviously a huge compliment because we're both big fans. But yeah, having a somewhat mysterious character like that to aid his process was just fun to build in.
And was there anything that you, before going into filming and as you were writing, that you used not as inspiration, but maybe you had like a movie that you would rewatch just to give you that extra push as you're writing? Was there anything particular, or was it just something that came to you sort of naturally?
I mean, The Conversation was a movie that we cited a little bit as inspiration, just because it's kind of actually Renee and his character and world apply more to that because it's like an audio movie with cool old technology. It wasn't old at the time, but in the early 70s. So that was one that comes to mind. But obviously a ton of other influences, and just wanted to hopefully bring our own unique voice to this world.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of like other media, like I think they're making some effort. Like it's so, at least speaking for myself, it's so easy to just want to take stuff from other movies. But this one, we're kind of trying to make an effort of, being influenced visually. We looked at a lot of like family photos of our frumpy but wonderful. Everything was frumpy in the '80s and Midwest. Our wonderful '80s family members and just kind of the stylings or lack thereof, and there's what their houses looked like at the time. So that was the big influence. There was like all these like there's these like Mormon VHS videos in like the '80s and '90s. One of them was called like the Buttercream Gang. The other ones I haven't really been able to find, but just kind of drawing from that inspiration to some degree. A lot of even early '70s like lower budget movies like Sweetback's Badass Revenge. of getting the name of that title wrong. But in some Gordon Parks films and stuff, I think just how they're able to capture that just gritty nature, certainly also acted as inspiration.
Yeah. And as you said, it has you have your own movie, it is your own thing. The grain that you have over the film, is that from using older technology to get that? Because it is really effective. It works especially well with the synth as well, and it gives it that classical feel and that oldie time. Say oldie times if the 80s, but that's how it feels nowadays. But that older feel to it.
I think the first film that we directed together is called Bab, and it was takes place in some kind of revisionist '50s, and we were wanting to go for like some kind of grungy Technicolor look, and anyway. I think we look back at that film now. It's like I wish we dug in a little more. I wish we had gone a little more extreme. So this one, I think, not just the aesthetic texture of the film, but everything. We're like, all right, let's not play it safe with any of this stuff. And same with our production heads. They made sure they kind of were taking things, more extreme than feels comfortable at times. But so yeah, in terms of the look, I think we got some like old lenses from the '70s and put additional filtration on it and put some additional film grain. But yeah, I think we're just hoping to not play it safe, I guess, visually, for better or worse.
Yeah, it does look great. It's fantastic looking. I think that feel for it, and as I said, with the synth behind as well, and the organ noise as well, it's just very affecting in the way it kind of comes off. Certainly had an impact on me. So
thank you.
No, not a problem. Thank you for letting me see it early. That's always a bonus.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I've mentioned Saturday's the international premiere. What is next for you, for the both of you? You've got anything in the pipeline, or is it more Dead Mail press coverage and things like that coming up?
Yeah, we've got a few festivals coming up, and we are in development on our next script, which is kind of a 90s, we're calling it like a 90s kind of grungy, grounded drama combined with, kind of a thriller slash some slasher elements. That was a terrible broad description, but it'll take place in the early '90s at a remote animal sanctuary after a couple is forced on the run for the kidnapping of their foster child. And I flubbed that. Kyle did that way cleaner in our last call. So, but hey, I need to wrap on it.
It's a work in progress for sure. But yeah, we're excited. We love working together, and hope Dead Mail can lead to the next thing one way or another. But yeah, we're so excited about Frightfest, and I guess Dead Mail is going to be at TIFF in a few weeks. So excited just to see what happens with this little film here.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll be in Mannheim, Germany together in November. So if you want to swing up, come on over.
Yeah, I've got friends in Munich, but I don't know how far that is from Mannheim.
Oh, cool.
But, we don't either, but we're
sure
we're going.
Germany's not a big country. It'll be easy enough to find.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Kyle and Joe, again, thank you very much for your time tonight, and good luck with the showings, and good luck in Germany now that you're going there. And Toronto as well, does that TIFF?
Yeah, Toronto and then Stitches in southern Spain, if you've heard of that one. We'll be there. Or I don't think we'll be able to make that one, but the film will be there.
Yeah, excellent. Well, good luck with it, and again, speak to you soon. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew.
Thank
Good
you
meeting
so
you, man.
much.